Hi, I'm Xander, and welcome to my channel. My channel is all about my creative process. So I start with the inspiration behind why a piece came to be. And then I hesitate to call it a performance. It's more how something sounds. And then after that, I go over more like the nuts and bolts of something, some uses, some ways you might want to use it if you're using it in ritual purposes, if that's what it was designed for. Um, how you might sing it, some things you might need to keep in mind when you sing it, that kind of stuff. But before I get into any of that, I would like to pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people on whose lands I'm broadcasting today. Their elders, past, present, and emerging, and any other elder who happens to be watching today. This is, was, and always will be Aboriginal land. Sovereignty was never ceded. This is stolen land, and that should be acknowledged. Okay, so the piece today I often use if I'm doing something for St Brigid, but it doesn't actually mention St Brigid specifically. So it can be, it's a fairly versatile piece. It's called Held Within, and in the description below you'll find a link to my blog page, which has the words for it, and something that is more like a performance of the song. So the inspiration behind this particular piece, it came from a social media post that a friend of mine put out, where they were lamenting, I guess you would say, the frustration behind their craft, their practice, incorporating Christian symbols, and talking with a friend who practiced the same kind of craft, who was very anti having any Christian symbolism or something perceived of as Christian symbolism in their craft. And there were these two opposing viewpoints, where which basically made the first person, the person who put out the social media post, question a little how they felt about the Christian symbolism in their craft. I happen to use, my version of the craft is something that incorporates a wide range of factors, including, on occasion, Christian symbolism. I work with angels, I work with saints, and I work with signs like the cross, for example, which is an old symbol, as well as being a Christian symbol. We often think about these symbols as if they have singular usage, and a lot of things that are symbolic for one reason in one set of practices or beliefs can often mean something quite different to another set of practices and beliefs. But quite often there's some kind of an overlap, which will be common to all, or which use features that are common to both. So, of course, my craft is witchcraft, and although I generally refer to myself as a pagan, because so many people have very strong opinions about the word witchcraft and what it means. And there are so many different kinds, and people practice the craft in so many different ways. And there are quite a plethora of different traditions, depending on cultures and backgrounds. Not all would be referred to in their natively as being witchcraft, but might be perceived of as witchcraft if using English language to talk about it, which is why I'm kind of trying to be a little, not exactly vague, but I'm trying to be a little broad and generalistic in my language here. So Held Within starts with a symbol, And that symbol is the Celtic cross, the cross of Ireland, if you like, although it has other regions in England, various parts of England and Scotland and Wales, where you will always find it. But I always think of it as the cross of Ireland. And, excuse me, that cross is quite unique because apart from the cross itself, there is a circle that goes around the center of the cross. Just a sec. And when I saw the particular social media post that my friend put out, and then my own reaction as somebody who uses Christian symbols, because my heritage is Irish Scot in many ways. Yes, some English, but also Irish Scot, more Scot than Irish, but Irish Scot. And in these locations, in order for the craft to survive, and because of the nature of Christianity and the way that it works when it comes into a new location, old beliefs and Christian beliefs became intertwined and became part of the one symbolic structure. If you look at a lot of folk methods of practicing the craft, you will see this merging quite easily, that in a lot of the healing chants, perhaps healing pieces that people would use to read out, quite often moved from a very pagan pantheon that they were using as a basis into a Christian pantheon that they were using as a basis. Some of the stuff that they said that might have been a little different pre-Christian or early Christian became very Christianized in later times, but the essence of the piece is relatively the same. And these were recorded back in medieval times, a bit later, a bit earlier, but around that particular time when things were getting written down. So there's a fairly lengthy history of their use. So I go back to the Celtic cross, this cross with a circle around its center. And when I saw the post and I felt the emotions that were coming up within me about my reaction to the situation of somebody whose paganism, whose witchcraft included Christian symbols, and whether or not they would be considered Christian, it's just they had things that were recognizable within the Christian pantheon and the Christian mythos, but used in a witchcraft context, in a pagan context, and somebody whose witchcraft could never exist or coexist with anything that used Christian symbols and mythos. And because a lot of my stuff comes from my emotions, it's a way of being able to say what I would like to say without that I can't say. I can't speak it, so I sing it. I rhyme it. So a lot of my poetic pieces, or the pieces that I specifically design or craft, often come or start from some kind of emotion that I'm feeling. And in this case, it was frustration. And it was that kind of frustration that is borderline anger. It's just like, just because your witchcraft can't coexist with Christian symbolism and mythos doesn't mean the situation is the same for everyone. For some people, they are very much one and the same thing. Purely because of culture, if nothing else. So the piece itself goes like this. I hold a cross inside my heart, and it is the crossroads of my art. Around its center lies a ring, and it's the one I dance within. I hold a cross inside my heart, and it is the crossroads of my art. Around its center lies a ring, and it's the one I dance within. Deep within it there lies a flame, and at its center your divine name. I hold a cross inside my heart, and it is the crossroads of my art. Around its center lies a ring, and it's the one I dance within. I hold a cross inside my heart, and it is the crossroads of my art. Around its center lies a ring, and it's the one I dance within. All that is, was, and ever shall be again lies here at the center, deep within your flame, or held within your flame, whichever way I sing it. I tend to interchange both sets of words. Excuse me while I deal with my cat. What's the problem? Do you want food? It's over here. There you go. You eat Vicky's. He has a habit of interrupting when it's best that she doesn't interrupt. Okay, so the structure of the song, if I can start there, is something that was a little odd, but it's just the way that felt right at the time of writing it. And it's a kind of inversion in that the chorus, it's where the song starts. And the chorus is in the middle of two verses. And the verse ends the song. The song ends on a verse, not a chorus. And I'm not sure why offhand that when I wrote it, I wasn't sure why it was needed to be that way, but it needed to be that way. I got a really deep feeling or sense when I was writing it that instead of putting, because sometimes the chorus might come first, but then you put the verses around it and everything ends up fitting in like a more traditional, I hesitate to say pop song, but that kind of structure where you have a particular expectation of where your verses and choruses are going to be. And this time when I wrote it, and I started with the chorus because I hold a cross within my heart, and it is the crossroads of my art. When I practice my art, I work with crossroads. Crossroads have a very lengthy old history, very lengthy history of use in the craft, in various different iterations of the craft across multiple cultures. The crossroads are quite an important part of not every kind of witchcraft, but a bunch of different kinds of witchcraft. And so at the center, a cross is kind of like a representation of the crossroads. And then so the cross in and of itself as a symbol is also a symbol of my crossroads, the crossroads that I use in my art. So I hold a cross inside my heart. It is the crossroads of my art. Around its center lies a ring, and it's the one I dance within. In the majority of the kinds of paganism that I was introduced to when I was studying the craft, from first introduction to what it was through a book called Wicca for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham, all the way through to the two witch houses that I aligned with, which is wildwood and reclaiming in my current day practices, and that eclectic stuff that manifests as personal practice as you encounter and come to terms with the way things feel personally for you, and you end up excuse me, walking a very individual path with your craft, because it's your craft. It therefore mirrors your experiences in life, the various influences that you've had in life. Some of it will be based on set law, and some of it is just, heart and mind. So the circle, of course, is in a lot of the pagan practices that I was taught, you cast circle. And you cast circle for a variety of different reasons. And part of those reasons are to create a safe container for you to operate within, so it's protective. And part of it is also so that there is a particular space that is sacred that you're working with, that is a way of connecting with the divine when you're in this particular space, just like a crossroads can be, but it connects you in a different way. And there's also a history of ecstatic practice happening within a circle, certainly in both witch houses that I'm part of. And so I hold a cross inside my heart. It is the crossroads of my heart. Around its center lies a ring, and it's the one I dance within. So those particular lines were basically a direct comment on this, what my friend had expressed in their social media post. And I was basically saying, well, yes, I agree with you in that I use Christian symbolism in my witchcraft, and it's a part of my craft. And this is how it's a part of my craft. It's not something where I'm superimposing something from elsewhere. It's intrinsically part, and not just part of my modern practice, but through my blood ancestry, something that links me to my ancestors and how they may perhaps have thought of it, how they may have perhaps used it. And then the two choruses, deep within there lies a flame, and at its center your divine name. And when I wrote that, I was thinking very much of Brigid of Brigid of St Brigid, and how Brigid is the eternal flame, Brigid's fire, Brigid associated with Ireland. And when I visited Ireland, that sacredness, that feeling of home that I got when I set foot in Ireland once I'd acclimatized, because it's a very different feel in Ireland to the feel of where I am here in Australia. It's a very different feeling. And that kind of aligning, and the divine name being held within fire. We might think of something that is quite often more an epithet than a name, as being a name, but it's quite often deep meaning is quite often something that is more like a title rather than a name. It often is something that is descriptive of that particular essence. And the essence in this case is a flame, and deep within the flame is the divine name of the being that I'm interacting with, which I'm deliberately obscuring in that I'm not saying what that name is. At the time I wrote it, I was thinking St Brigid, but there are other names that it could have been, some of whom I work with. The second verse, all that is, was, and ever will be again, lies here at the center, deep within your flame. It's just another iteration about how all of life comes from this creative manifesting force. Everything is held in that particular flame, that instance, that spark that created life. In the majority of creation stories, there will be a particular instance where life is created. It's not always from a flame. Sometimes it comes from a primordial ocean. Sometimes it comes from stars. Sometimes it comes from somewhere else. But there is always this instance, this spark, that suddenly life is created. And for me, it's held within this flame. So that's basically the meaning behind the song. I repeat the chorus twice, and the ending of the chorus goes up, I think, the first time, and then down. And that's the nursery rhyme-esque of it. I find nursery rhymes to be a very interesting folk song. A lot of the nursery rhymes that come down to us hold a lot deeper meaning than the light-hearted meaning a lot of people associate with them in modern cultures. And they're done in a very particular way. They're often circular, they're often repetitive. They often have this kind of thing where you can imagine children singing them while skipping around in a circle, which a lot of nursery rhymes are designed for, that kind of children's play. And the craft reminds us that this children's play is actually connected to the energies that we connect with when we do the craft, especially if our energies have to do with the good neighbors or fae folk or whatever name you like to call them, or they are dealing with something that is deep and ancestral. Quite often, these sorts of repetitive, poetic, rhyming lines come at the heart of it, and they hold energy, they hold power, they connect back. They have this red line of lineage where you've got this constant practice of using rhyme, of using circular songs in order to build energy or intent towards something. So it's something that aligns with magic and with magical practice quite well. Is there anything else that I can say about held within? So it wasn't drafted with any specific use in mind, but I use it devotionally. If I happen to be singing St Brigid for example, I might use that song to sing St Brigid into a working, and even to give thanks to St Brigid and sing her out again. So that's held within. I hope you enjoyed the story of it, and until next time, bye.